When we first ran, there were so many people who wanted to make this a referendum on just one issue. And I'm sorry, we're just going to get right into it. Because the reality is what the reality is. And there were a lot of people who wanted to convince us that we could not be pro-peace and win in this district. That when we fight, we win. We win. Fight, we win. We did. Let's go.
Progressive Congresswoman Summer Lee just won her re-election against a primary challenge that centered heavily on Israel's war in Gaza. Now, as you heard from her acceptance speech there, Summer Lee has been very critical of how Israel has carried out the war in Gaza, and that led to certain donors heavily and financially backing her primary challenger. Now, let's be clear, she did win and she won easily. It wasn't a blowout. She won the Pittsburgh area race comfortably though, with 98% of ballots counted Wednesday morning. Lee had just over 60% of the votes. So again, comfortable win for Lee, and I'm happy to see it. Now, Lee was one of the first members of Congress who was willing to call for a ceasefire and also to criticize the way Israel's government responded to Hamas's atrocities on October 7th. Her views did earn her quite a bit of backlash. So she was one of the 37 Democrats who opposed the House bill to provide Israel with $26 billion, including nearly $14 billion in unconditional military aid, which, as we reported, passed this past weekend. In a recent interview with NBC, Summer Lee defended her decision to vote against that legislation.
The world has been calling for a ceasefire. The world has looked at the way this war has been conducted, and they've been concerned about that. And so have I.
Even with the $9 billion in humanitarian aid, that wasn't enough.
What we're hearing is that humanitarian aid is scarcely getting in.
Right.
It's scarcely getting in. It's not good enough to send bombs to Israel and send Band-Aids to Gaza, right? We need to stop the bombing. We need to stop the bleeding before we can even do anything else. It's just not helpful at that point.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Can I just give her some snaps? Because the strength that it takes to be a public figure, much less a member of Congress, who is willing to cast a vote in the way that they feel is fit, that is moral, that stands true and firm with their principles and values. And then to get the backlash and still stand firm, you don't see that kind of courage in Congress. Let's just keep it real. So I was afraid of what was gonna happen in this election because I know how powerful certain interest groups are and how if they flood the opponent with enough money, that could really make an impact in the race. And I thought, all right, well, she's got a target on her back. I don't know what's gonna happen with her efforts in getting reelected. And I'm so happy she got reelected. And I'm gonna explain why. Okay, there's a reason why, despite the attacks against her, she was able to comfortably win re-election. But let me give you more details, including the fact that, shockingly, AIPAC did not get involved in this race. There was pro-Israel money involved in this race, make no mistake about it. But the powerful pro-Israel organization known as AIPAC, which spent millions against Summer Lee in her 2022 race, took a backseat this time around. But that might be because of the fact that her opponent, Edgewood Borough Council member Bhavini Patel, was already so well funded that maybe AIPAC thought, nah, we don't really need to give this candidate more money. They're in a good position to beat Summer Lee, financially speaking. Patel was boosted though by the massive super PAC support from Republican donor Jeff Yass, a Pennsylvania billionaire. Now, Yass is a close ally of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and financed his controversial effort to take over Israel's judiciary. So that's the guy who heavily funded Summer Lee's opponent. So while AIPAC didn't, Jeff Yass did. Yass spent at least $800,000 in the race through his so-called moderate PAC. But even with 90% small dollar donations, Lee pulled in more money than Patel did. okay? Roughly 1 million over the last quarter of 2023 and nearly 2.3 million for the cycle. And small dollar donors, okay? That's incredible. Patel sort of denounced Yas at a recent debate after his involvement in the race emerged, saying, quote, "It would be better if it hadn't happened because it's a distraction." I know, but did you reject his money though? You didn't reject his money, did you? And the money didn't even help, which is nice. It's also possible that AIPAC avoided Lee's race out of fear of getting embarrassed by her yet again. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Lee has already overcome millions of dollars in AIPAC spending twice over. If she defeated AIPAC a third time in Tuesday's primary, it would only bolster her standing while weakening AIPAC's own arguments about its involvement, validating its core message that being pro-Israel is smart politics. Apparently not in this case. Now, asked about their decision to stay in the sidelines when it came to this race in Pennsylvania, AIPAC spokesperson Marshall Whitman beat around the bush, saying, "We are already involved in several races, and we will be engaged in additional campaigns where we can have the greatest impact. By the end of this election year, the voice of the pro-Israel movement will definitely be heard." I mean, we're hearing them right now as they're squashing protests on college campuses across the country, but that's despite the outside funding from people like Jeff Yass and also her reputation as being some far left like lunatic, Lee did manage to win support from a pretty politically diverse group. You want to know why? Because she delivered for them. And that's what I want to get to. I think the most important part of this story is that even when you have corruption baked into our system, even when you have a situation in which our politicians carry out the best interests of moneyed interests rather than their own constituents, if you are a lawmaker who actually delivers for your constituents, actually gives a damn about your constituents and listens to them, hears them out, and gets them the policies and programs they need and want, they're gonna come through for you. And the money that gets poured into the opponent's campaign coffers aren't gonna be as effective, because what's the opponent gonna do with that money? Yeah, they're gonna put out ads against Summer Lee, but are the ads going to be effective if the constituents voting in that race have experienced positive benefits of having Summer Lee as their representative? So as a member of Congress, Summer Lee helped bring back more than $1.2 billion in spending to benefit her district in her first term. Those investments helped her earn local establishment support, as those figures need a good relationship with their member of Congress if it looks like she's going to be there for a while, right? And then I also want to give Democratic members of Congress who backed her a lot of credit as well. This is kind of different from what we've experienced in past races when you have a progressive candidate being challenged by a more, corporate or establishment Democrat in the primary. But in this case, both sitting Democratic senators from Pennsylvania endorsed Summer Lee, including, shockingly, John Fetterman, but I'll take it, who's the most vocal supporter of Israel's assault on Gaza in the Senate, with whom she has had an icy relationship with over the years. Now, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, a tight ally of AIPAC, also endorsed her, to his credit. So did the local unions, which doesn't surprise me at all. But despite juggling support from a wide range of people, she is standing firm on her message about the war in Gaza. In fact, last night, she posted her victory speech along with this caption, seemingly to respond to AIPAC about what is and isn't good politics. Quote, "Opposing genocide is good politics and good policy. Hashtag ceasefire now." Tasty, tasty.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.